Yeah,
They
a lot of these complaints are like rooted in competition as well. That's
yeah,
something that we haven't like necessarily talked about, but it's in the best interest of every country that's not the United States for her not to run.
right. So hey,
Yeah, man. Like they've been saying on
the
social media, bro. Like if it ain't crack, let that girl run the track, man. Like, like.
I saw that. I was like, that's a bar.
Let me put you on
Speaking of athletes and what some people may see as injustice directed at those athletes, we have Sha'Carri Richardson. If you guys are not familiar with her, she is a track and field star who recently has gained a lot of fame and notoriety, not only for her performance on the track, she's been dominant, but also her persona and her appearance, off of the track. It's She's been kind of a media darling for the last couple of weeks in terms of
Yeah,
how many people have latched on to her, and she's gained a large following and a lot of love and support from uh, people who are now her fans and followers. But recently, she was suspended for 1 month by the Olympic team after testing positive for THC, which is an active component in marijuana. And she may be able to compete in the 4x100 relay, but as of now, she will not be allowed to compete in the 100 meters. So, and also her trial results from all of her exploits athletically prior to the Olympics, at least within a certain period from the positive test, have been disqualified.
yeah.
Uh, the USADA CEO said that the rules are clear, but this is heartbreaking on many levels. Hopefully, her acceptance of responsibility and apology will be an important example to us all that we can successfully overcome our regrettable decisions, despite the costly consequences of this one to her. And according to the USADA, marijuana isn't thought to enhance performance but remains banned because the drug meets 2 of 3 criteria listed by the World Anti-Doping Agency for something to be added to its prohibited list. A, it poses a health risk to athletes. B, it has the potential to enhance performance. And C, it violates the spirit of the sport.
Yeah.
And Sha'Carri recently made a daytime talk show appearance, and she said that I want to take responsibility for my actions. I know what I did. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm not allowed to do it, and I still made that decision. I'm not making an excuse or looking for any sympathy in my case. And she also said that she used marijuana as a coping mechanism after finding out from a reporter that her mother died. So I just wanted to get your perspective on Sha'Carri, the ruling, and do you feel like it's justified, her being suspended, or should she be allowed to run?
So my opinion is that unfortunately, Sha'Carri was technically wrong based on the rules, but she was not wrong in the eyes of the people. And I think this whole situation is really unfortunate. Like the tragedy of the situation is that her family member died and she found this out from a reporter, you know, not too long before she had to perform in the competition of her lifetime. And I can't imagine the amount of anxiety, stress, heartbreak she had to deal with in that moment. And so she decides to go to marijuana as a place of refuge. And it's unfortunate because you would hope that an Olympic athlete could get more than marijuana in order to cope with their issues and to cope with their stress. But who knows what her actual personal life looks like, the resources that she has available to her, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that she had to use that in order to kind of deal with it and then still performed at a top level just shows you how amazing of an athlete she is. And but it just makes you sad because in the eyes of the people, as our nation is kind of moving away from archaic cannabis laws, but it's still a Schedule 1 drug at the federal level, you're seeing a shift in the perspective that it has. But On the opposite side, the IOC is an international organization. And if this was America, maybe some like they could, maybe some could, maybe they could petition, maybe they could do something to just try to get the best opportunity that they can. Because at the end of the day, it's like, we want our best athletes to be there. But because of, what she's done, and because she really, yeah, because of what's happened, she has to get punished. And it's really unfortunate. Um, I was also looking at what the potential punishments could have been, and it could have been anywhere from 30 days to 2 years. But they elected to give her just a 30-day punishment. And unfortunately, this happened just before the Olympics. And so that, because of the timing, she's not going to be able to actually perform in that 100-meter race because it happens during that suspension window. But she might have the ability to perform in the 4x100-meter race that happens close to the end of July. So it could have been worse, and she could have lost all possibility to perform. But thankfully she didn't, and she's kind of accepted responsibility. From the people, you're seeing a lot of like, "Hey, this is unfair. Like, how could they? This is BS. Michael Phelps did it. Why didn't he receive the same similar type of punishment?" But the Michael Phelps situation was different, and in fact, he actually received a lot of punishment. He lost sponsorships, and he was also, he got caught on camera smoking. He didn't actually test positive during the Olympics, and he was banned from competing for 3 months, which is a longest suspension, and he lost his Kellogg sponsorship deal. And the USA swimming team stripped him of its financial support. So he kind of got he got hit. So there is a precedent here, but at the end of the day, the precedent does seem archaic. And I hope that this is an example of changes that need to occur. But it's kind of hard to lobby that for an international organization.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I think that your perspective offers like a more macro view of it rather than the actual like insulated, because there's a lot of emotion behind it as well. Like it's tough because we see rules in our everyday lives that we just know are BS,
Yeah,
but are we're governed by them. So it sucks. Like it's I can't even like fix my face to say that like she should have followed the rules, or like, or that rules are rules, because I just feel like the rules themselves are BS. Like we have a situation here in our country where marijuana is become so much more socially acceptable, and it's become a business opportunity for so many people. But you look at the the dichotomy between the profit off of marijuana and the incarceration due to selling it. So it's kind of that dichotomy that exists there, but that's also the dichotomy that exists within athletics as well. Because like you said, you look at these international organizations and they're being strict about it, but you look at organizations like the NBA, where it is well known that NBA players be smoking. And like there's no reprimand for it these days, because like the NBA is well aware that like you said, the rules are archaic. The rules societally are archaic. So it's just a tough situation. I think that if I wish that they had the power to, but if they could, they should. I feel like she should be allowed to run, because
right.
like you said, the rules are archaic. Marijuana is not an enhancement.
Yeah. Even though
Like
they have
if
it,
she
even though they have it listed as a performance enhancement, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's like these rules that we have with these uh what is one thing and what is not another thing, is they have, it's almost like we have to unlearn how archaic these rules are. Like at one point, it's almost like with the DSM, with something like homosexuality being considered a mental illness, but now we know that it's not. So it's like those rules were changed, or
Right.
that distinction, that description of it has changed. So it's like with marijuana, like we know it's not as dangerous or as uh you know nefarious as it's billed to be. So I don't know why they have these rules in place where people are getting incarcerated and suspended for use of it. So it just doesn't make sense, especially when you consider that it's legal in almost 20 states now, you know?
Yeah,
So it's just I think we both believe that she should be allowed to compete, but like you said, it's almost like she's morally in the right, but she's struggling against kind of like the bureaucracy of it all, and there's
yeah.
like not really much you can do about it. But I hope that there is, if there is some way that she can compete, because it doesn't make sense. Like she could smoke a cigarette prior to the race and run, and it will be totally fine. But it's like,
That's detrimental to the health. I'm sure alcohol is detrimental to the health, right? But
yeah, and
it's
that's
not
what I was
like,
like. Those rules don't make any sense. Like the criteria that they have for the anti-doping agency, like it's already debatable if it poses a health risk to athletes. But like you said, an athlete could down a shot or smoke a cigarette right before a race, and it wouldn't be an issue when both of those things are well documented to be detrimental to our health. But it's just more socially acceptable. And it's also more financially acceptable because tobacco and alcohol are two of the biggest industries, not only in the United States, but worldwide.
yeah,
And it doesn't it doesn't enhance her performance. I think if I don't smoke, but people who have smoked have also said that like it has no effect on how fast you can run. If anything, it will probably make you run a little slower. So like, and then with C, it's they're saying that it violates the spirit of sport, and that just kind of feels like it's up to their judgment to say whatever the spirit of sport is, and that just kind of that just kind of sounds like it's whatever we say it is. So
yeah,
it just sounds like it's BS. But I don't know, man. We got to make more room for these kind of things, or more exceptions for this kind of stuff. Like if she's dealing with the death of a family member, especially someone that's as close as her mother, like there have to be certain allowances for this, especially like if you consider uh how important mental health has become in terms of the conversation surrounding athletes. But
right.
I don't know. Let the girl, like I wish, I know we can't, but like let the girl race,
Let her
man.
run.
Like, and also I wanted to say this as well. Like if you're the world, uh was it the WOC?
IOC, International
IOC.
Olympic Committee.
Okay, yeah. If you're them, if you're them dudes, like if you realize that like Usain Bolt is retired, right? Michael
Hmm.
Phelps has retired. So as far as famous Olympic athletes, you probably only have a handful that will draw in spectators. You have
Right.
someone like a Simone Biles, and recently, just off the top of my head, you have Sha'Carri Richardson. So in terms of drawing eyes and sponsorship and money to your sport, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot as far as financially. Like you're kind of depriving the audience of what it wants to see. Like the
Right.
100 meters, you're gonna have I think her Shelly Ann Fraser Price, the Jamaican sprinter who set so many world records. She's amazing, but her against Sha'Carri is that's a potential moneymaker for you, and you kind of just deprived yourself of that entire opportunity because you want to be like old.
Yeah,
You want to be old, you want to be archaic, you want to be just dumb. It really just doesn't make sense to me.
it doesn't. And you hate to see stuff like this. And I like what some other people have said on social media in terms of like maybe it's up to athletes to start standing together in these moments and either boycotting or protesting these types of rulings so that the powers that be can understand that bureaucracy for the sake of bureaucracy isn't helpful. And sometimes it's okay to make a change and make an adjustment to a policy that, quite frankly, doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that is one thing that I wish could happen, is that they would make an adjustment to the policy, because like I feel like they have the power to, you
Yeah,
know. But
it's a strike of a pen. Call an emergency meeting, have an emergency vote, and just ratify the existing rules because it's silly. Now, sometimes that can get a little funky because so not all countries are up to date when it comes to their views on drugs. You know, you have countries like Singapore that still levy harsh penalties on people that either bring in or use drugs in their country, or and other countries, you know, have different rules. And so it also, the kind of sticky position that the IOC is in is that they have to represent a lot of different nations and their wants. And what, so for another country who thinks, hey, I'm about to lose, my girl's about to lose to Sha'Carri Richardson,
Yeah.
um you know, like, because she's, hey, she got THC in the blood, she should be disqualified. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
You know, and so they gotta,
Yeah,
they,
a lot of these complaints are like rooted in competition as well. That's
yeah,
something that we haven't like necessarily talked about, but it's in the best interest of every country that's not the United States for her not to run.
right. So, hey.
Yeah, man. Like they've been saying on social media, bro. Like if it ain't crack, let that girl run the track, man. Like, like
I saw that. I was like, that's a bar.
Yeah, you gotta love our people, man. They always got, even in the face of despair and of you know, this girl getting disqualified, we still got to get these jokes off. So
Oh yeah, the internet is undefeated, man. Black Twitter is where it's at.